We'll be discussing governance, democracy, and the role of the opposition party, and the importance of inclusive governance, 7 years of President Julius Malabio's government, among other things. And in the studios this morning, to discuss on this all important issue, we'll be joined by two experienced and seasoned politicians from both the APC, of course, former member of parliament for the APC, Hon Ibrahim Kargbo. And similarly, so we're expected to be joined in the studios by Alhaji Dr. Alpha Khan, who is the presidential spokesman for the, of course, bio-led administration. But first off, Hon Ibrahim Kargbo is in our studios this morning. Hi, Kargbo, it's a pleasure having you as always.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
It's been a while. How have you been?
It's been a while, yes. But it relies on, it depends on whether I'm invited here or not. You've not invited me for a very long time, and this is why I made myself absent. But I'm happy to be here.
Kargbo, first off, we want to hear from you. How toxic is the political landscape of Sierra Leone as we speak?
Well, I used the word a few minutes ago somewhere else, that in a country that claims to be practicing democracy, it becomes very, very unacceptable for people to be too angry over minor issues. Sometimes I see people who normally should be friends finding themselves at variance simply because they hold different views. But my position is that in politics, people should be allowed to hold on to their views. But in this country today, I discovered that the moment you develop a different ideology, the other man thinks you're an enemy, and the society becomes very toxic. I think we should work against that. It is not good for development. This is what is happening today, and we should work against it.
There's a lot to talk on in today's program.
There is a lot.
Kargbo's name is one that rings bell in terms of politics in Sierra Leone. Your role within your party, the APC. Are you still a member of the APC?
I'm always a member of the APC. I will never quit the APC. It is my party. In fact, I am a member of the Elders Council of the APC, a very important arm of that party. Yes, I'm a member of the APC. I'll continue to be a member of the APC.
Kargbo, at this moment, in a thriving democracy, a robust and an organized opposition plays an essential role in checking the excesses of the ruling government. To date, with the realities on the ground, will you say the APC is a robust opposition, or would you agree to the perception of many that it seems a very weak and powerless opposition that is currently in this area?
It is a robust opposition, I would tell you. In the first instance, I have the advantage of having served as a minister when the APC was in governance. I also served during the one-party days when I was appointed Secretary General of the Backbenchers Association, which means that I was leader of the opposition in Parliament. I've also seen myself as a member of parliament during the days of Ernest Koroma, when he was in governance and when he was president of this country. And I also played a role as member of parliament and deputy leader of the House during Malabio's regime. So I'm in a position to determine whether the opposition is effective or not effective. I'll tell you for free that our people are anxious sometimes. They believe that the opposition should play miracles, and they forget that sometimes there are rules and regulations governing performance in parliament. You have the standing orders, you have the constitution to go by. So therefore, you operate within the ambit of those rules and regulations. But of course, our people, I don't blame them. Some of them are quite anxious to see positive results quickly. They want the opposition to play miracles. But of course, when it comes to debating in parliament, the ability of the parliamentarians to put his points across effectively and to address issues that will benefit the ordinary people are also very, very important. So like I said, At the moment we have an opposition in parliament, it is going by the rules, regulations. But of course, the SLPP is in power, and our people in the opposition believe that we should have done far more than we are doing at the moment. But I can assure you that I trained some of those fellows, we mentor them, and we believe that they are going according to the rules and regulations. But of course, in politics, you can always do a little bit more. Because what we are working towards, we in the opposition now with the APC, is to make sure that we take over power come the next elections. So we must work very, very hard, very assiduously, and we expect our parliamentarians to perform miracles, if possible, for us to be able to discredit the SLPP because of their bad performance. To this point, we have come to the conclusion that if we compare our performance during Ernest Koroma's regime, and now we perform better than they are doing at the moment. So we should take advantage of that and send this message to the public, abroad, internationally, so that we gain stronger grounds during the next elections.
Ibrahim Kargbo, you're one person that have had a taste of politics, or governance specifically at the executive and that of the legislative level. You've served as a Minister of Information and as well served as a Member of Parliament for quite a while. Of course, your previous submission, at the climax of your submission, you did state that if you compare and contrast between the days of former President Ibrahim Kargbo and that of President Bill, the current president, it seemed the APC did extremely well as compared to what's happening. What are the pointers you want to look at, taking into account your submission?
Well, in the first place, I'll take at infrastructural development. We came to power in 2007 with great difficulties in the area of maintenance of roads in this country. And within a very short time, we started to rebuild the roads. And all you need to do now is to travel all over the country to see the difference between when Pakaba was president and when Ernest Koroma was president. We came up with the policy of the ring road system. In fact, if we had won the election, right, in 2018, we could have continued our program to take our roads close to the border with Guinea and Mali. And what we have done at the moment, if you take the eastern part of the country, that was an area that was abandoned for so many years, and you now travel in that area around that area, you'll discover the dramatic change in infrastructural development. You look at the streets in Freetown, you look at the Wilkinson Road. When I went on radio, then I was spokesman for government as well, to tell them that we are going to convert the Wilkinson Road from a 2-lane to a 4-lane road, the public lambasted me on radio that it was impossible. Too many houses were located in the area. It was not. And I told them, gentlemen, you will see the results. Today, Wilkinson Road is a 4-lane road.
But the cost of that road is still a question by many Sierra Leoneans.
Well, of course, the opposition wanted to make capital out of it. But of course, gave them the figures. The figures were quite clear. The road cost that much, and those are the figures. And we gave them, the Auditor General make it very, very clear that that was a very sensible investment.
You continue with the earlier submission on, of course, the points as you just spoke on infrastructure.
We came the internet in this country. There was no internet in existence. Ernest Koroma negotiated. We went to Addis Ababa, then I was minister in charge of information and communications. We pleaded with the World Bank. We told them that we had just come from a war. We did not have $28 million to install the backbone in this country, to land the submarine cable. And they said, okay, if you assure us that you are going to liberalize your system, we will give you the money. And I gave them the assurance. And we came back to Freetown. We traveled to Washington. We did the paperwork. Samura Kamara went and signed on our behalf. And I went to Paris, signed with the 8 people. And then we landed the submarine cable in Freetown within a very, very short time. To us, it's also a great achievement. You look at all the other achievements that we have undertaken, the free medical care, all of these things are part of the structure of the state today, part of state policy. Whether APC is in power or not, free medical care is a state policy. So this is what we have been doing, quite a number of things. Look at the educational system, what we have done. We encourage the private sector. The Northern Province was backward in education. The Catholics came and asked us that they wanted to establish a university. We said, okay, we'll give you 100% support. And today the University of Makeni is one of the best universities in the country, right? This is where government need not do everything. Government has to rely again on the private sector and other participants, like the missionaries, who are quite prepared to be part of the process for development. So once we gave them the okay, we ended up with one of the best universities. A good other areas exist in this country.
The government over time has been very consistent in saying that they've done extremely well in terms of access to electricity in the country. Yes, we know during the days of former President Zanzibar Nkrumah, when he came to power, he did promise within 100 days to ensure Freetown is lighting up. And to some extent.
Well, it was part of our manifesto. And I was part of the process. When we took over in 2007, people were shouting, Kabataiga, Kabataiga. There was no electricity. You know, these historic small generators which people used to even light their houses and their facilities became the vogue. And in his statement and the APC in their manifesto, they made it very, very clear that in 100 days we'll change the scenario in the area in terms of electricity. And we came. My first assignment as Minister of Information was to travel with the President to Bumbuna by helicopter to have a look at the facilities there. And we came back the same day, convened a donors conference. The World Bank was there and all other participants were there. We asked them for money to pay Bumbuna so that we could continue the process. Within a very short time, Bumbuna was through. And today, Bumbuna is pumping 50 megawatts of electricity to the system. That is an achievement. When we left office, there was electricity all over the place. Nobody could boast of difficulties. We could have done far more than we did, of course, I agree. But of course, it was acceptable. People were comfortable. Women used the facilities to sell ice, to sell water, to make a little bit of money here and there, right? To make sure that everything was possible. But after we left, within a very short time, we started experiencing difficulties, especially in the area of electricity. Now we have a problem. People talk about the car power ship. The car power ship was not brought here as a permanent feature. It was brought here as a temporary phenomenon.
A quick fix?
No, not a quick fix. Just in case if something went wrong, right, we could have used it. But by the time this government came, they made it into a permanent feature. Today, the difficulty is that it is extremely difficult to handle car power ship. Already, we owe them very close to 65 million US dollars. From where are you going to get that money in this kind of an economy, right? And yet the people are standing here, nobody's talking to them. And the next step, I suspect, would be they will go to court to seek redress. But you cannot owe me $65 million without talking to me. And all Kanu and Mukala is doing now is to go to Guinea, ask them to come and help us. What about car power ship? What I do know about them? Are you going to get done with them and so that they can go back from whence they came? So these are some of the questions that we have.
There has been massive progress in terms of access to electricity. Yes, we know, of course, it's not stable as we speak. Even for me, last night I had problems. So I had no alternative but to use this to come for work because there was no light at home to press up my suit. But again, access in the provincial areas, we see there seems to be some progress. Now even you go to Kayene, some parts are not light. I don't
want to politicize electricity. I want us to aid the government, even as an opposition, to help them to make sure that we improve in that area. That sector needs a lot of improvement because it is very, very important in terms of national development. So to continue to politicize it becomes a difficulty. So what I would say here is that we look at it as a national problem which has difficulties, but which all of us must endeavor to develop. To us is important.
Even as you want to look at it from a national point of view, would you say the bill-led government is a listening government?
Sorry?
Would you say the bill-led government is a listening government?
Well,
because all the time we've had a lot of cries from the APC in terms of what they want to see in governance. Quite recently, we noticed members of parliament from the APC, they decided to take the back seat. They're not participating in what they were voted for by their representatives, among other things. Would you say the Bio-led government is a listening government?
Well, Bio's government, I'm talking about President Bio himself. As an individual, he listens. Because I've encountered him many times. We have listened to the extent that even my daughter went with me to visit Bio, asked the president difficult questions, and he responded. So in that regard, sometimes I could easily say that is a listening president. But in governance, you have policies, and you have quite a number of participants in the whole process. It could be the ministers who are unable to fathom, to understand the policies, the understanding of the president himself. But let me tell you, we had a difficulty in this country as once. There was this incident in Makeni where people were killed. I come from Makeni, that's my home. And as a member of the opposition, I was there in Makeni to receive a delegation that Madabio sent there to discuss the issue, to apologize to the members of people of Makeni. After that, I came to Freetown and I saw the president. And I sat with him. I said, Mr. President, this thing should not be allowed to continue. This is a disaster. It is going to give your government a bad name. And he said, yes, Mr. Kargbo, I know. He said, I have children myself. How can I send anybody to go and kill anybody's son? So these are some of the problems. And I said, could you, in your next statement, when you address the public, mention this point, that this is all part of your policy? And he did. So with that small experience, which I had with him, that small encounter, I can easily say that he listens.
We've just been joined in the studios by, of course, another experienced voice in politics and governance in country, in the person of Alhaji Dr. Alpha Khan, who is the presidential spokesman for the Bio-led government. It's a pleasure having you in the studios as always. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Hamil.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've waited a while for you. I know.
I always come from Potloko in the morning.
It stays in Potloko.
I live in Potloko.
You're seated very close to a brother.
Yes.
Yes,
I knew
and good friend too.
He's a great friend of mine.
Okay, I'll come to you, Alpha Khan, but quickly.
Thank you.
Quite recently, a lot has happened in the country that touches on lives and livelihoods of the people. One of which is that of Kargbo Holdings, for which almost over a thousand of Sierra Leoneans are now left jobless. Many people are worried about the consistent and constant silence of the president to talk on things. Are you worried about his silence?
Well, from our point of view, the opposition, we always saw the Kargbo Holdings as a very serious investment in this country. And I'm sure the APC, SLPP too, recognizes the fact that that's a very important investment. But it does not even give us money in terms of income generated, but also it provides employment for our people. You are talking about 1,000 people. That's a good number, especially for a government that said that they were going to provide employment for 500,000 people. That would have been a very good start. But now suddenly I learned that the Kargbo Holdings company is laying off these people because of difficulties they encountered with some members of the government. And I also followed up and I read the statements made by Kargbo Holdings, and I also read what the public said about the developments in Kanu, and I listened to what a paramount chief said. And my conclusion is that we could have rescued that matter. We could have saved the matter. We could have saved those jobs of 1,000 people by making sure that we intervene more sensibly to make sure that we understand the issues. But apparently, nobody is talking to the people. The thing became very toxic. Arguments from this point and that point. Everybody was talking about going to court, insulting each other, etc., bringing in the Anti-Corruption Commission. I do not think that in modern-day investment, this is what you do to be able to attract future investors. Because if these same people who are members of the International Chamber of Commerce take this information and distribute it to their counterparts in other countries, especially in Europe and the United States, we may not be able to attract future investors. To us, it's important. So I can easily conclude that the Kargbo Holdings, without attempting to apportion blame, the Kargbo Holdings, the fact that it has come to this point of almost near collapse, is an embarrassment to us, and we should have rescued it. And all of us who can say it, all of us in the opposition, will ask the government to do a little bit more to rescue the issue. It still can be rescued. The possibility does exist. To us is important, because I was shocked that in the banter, arguments against arguments, I never had any single word from the Minister of Mineral Resources. And Mr. Kanu here was the Minister of Mineral Resources, and he knows that if anybody should have been more concerned about what was happening in Kargbo, it should have been the minister in charge of mineral resources in this country. I never heard him utter a single sentence throughout the encounter. I heard what the Minister of Labour said, but it was a temporary statement to ensure that, to make it appear that he was doing his job. But the important thing is that we should have spoken a little bit more. And the government spokesman is here. What we should have done, for example, this actually deserved a presidential statement to make sure that we gave assurances to the public. But that has not happened. I hope it does happen without allowing us the system to collapse.
Khan, with those being said, I will share you. At some point in time, I remember the other day you came to our studio to ask a question as to the fact that issues of such matter, of such magnitude, they are line ministries. It has to do with the job of people, which centers on specifically so labor, and it has to do with the minerals of this country, which speaks to mines. I asked again, with the core institution, and now we see the First Lady's championing same, which has led to hopeful termination of jobs for those who used to get their living from salaries they receive from that company. Was it prudent to have seen a situation wherein the Minister of Mines and that of Labour will have been kicked off their job for not dealing with the issue in a manner at which it should have been dealt with?
Thank you very much, Samuel. Good morning, my brother and big brother and friend.
Yes.
I'm happy that you are here. Both of us were in cabinet before, in the same cabinet, throughout the period of Ernest Koroma's presidency. So we were all fair together with all the policies that were involved. Before I go to your specific question about Kargbo Holdings and government, I must first of all, while I was on the way here, you and the minister here were discussing the issue of energy during the time of our own tenure. I will say that the promise that was made by His Excellency, former President Koroma, that he would give electricity within 100 days if he assumed power, he did that. But that was crisis management. We were able to go and rent machines from Nigeria under income electrics at great cost. At some point they had to go. But they allowed us to pay attention to the completion of Bumbuna so that the 50 megawatts would come on stream. They did come on stream. But at that time, the total requirement for energy in Sierra Leone was 310 megawatts. We had 50 from Bumbuna. And I think from Dodo or something, 3 megawatts. And that's all we had. So there was a big shortage. We were load shedding. Nobody will tell you that there was no time when we didn't have load shedding at that time. We did have, like we have now, because it wasn't enough. And during the campaigning period, electioneering period of 2018, we had to make an impression, because energy was our challenge, and energy was our own priority at the time. We also had to go into another crisis management. We brought car power at great cost. Temporary, yes. But that was just to block the gaps at that time. So Car Power is here. And since that time, we've been trying to build up the local production capacity in order to replace Car Power. And that is what Dr. Yomkela, and that is what Alhaji Kanja Sise had been doing, trying to bring in other local arrangements, trying to go into Ivory Coast, bring in supplies from the CLSG, trying to build the Serengeti at Bauma station, trying to also develop solar energy at Newton and all that in order to reduce the dependency on the Car Power. It hasn't happened. Please, I think it's important that you allow me to. It hasn't yet fructified to the point where we would say that Car Power is not necessary. Car Power is still necessary here. But the hardball tactics that Car Power is playing is not very conducive for a developing country like ours. There must be some understanding. They have been here 6, 7 years, you would say, and they have been doing business here. It was not all debts. They've been earning money from us. And I think it is a business that they should also hold like an egg. At the point, if there were difficulties, to just come up and say, on the 9th of June, you don't pay us $13.6 million, we're going to shut down. And we know they would have. So what would you expect the excellent, Honorable Kande Yomkela to do? It was to look for alternatives, contingency plans, which he has done. He tried to make sure that Bumbuna could supply some of the deficit. At that time, Bumbuna supplied 30 megawatts. He went into Kintom, and they were able to get the Nigata machines started, 18 megawatts. They are trying to repair Blackhall Road for 25 megawatts. So it's all coming together. We see that also Sunbird at Makot, the solar energy, is providing something like 5 to 6 megawatts during the day. So that is coming up. That is how we have been able to shove the effect of that shutting down. So I would say that government is doing all that is possible and necessary in order to reduce that. To come to your point now about Kargbo Holdings. I was Minister of Mines. I was the one who signed the first contract with Kargbo Holdings. And I know the conditions that Kargbo Holdings had in that contract. It was a 25-year contract that will end in the next 4 years. The deposit as it is nearing its end at pipe number 1, where they are, at the Kimberlite pipe number 1. Now, the prices of diamonds have gone right down because the scientists and the industrialists in the world have now found a way of producing industrial diamonds to an extent where you can actually say, this is a diamond, if you are not an expert. So these have come to substitute the mid-level and low-level customers for diamonds, the engagement boys and the women and all that kind of thing. So that has taken more than 60–70% of the market, which means that the value of diamonds today and the demand for natural diamonds has gone very far down. So Kargbo Holdings are business people. Kargbo Holdings knows that in the next 4 years, with what is left there, they're not going to be able to earn enough in order to cover the costs of mine closure. I wrote the contract. They have an obligation of spending about $50 million to recover the lands that they have exploited, fill the holes. That they have to do when they close properly. It's called mine closure in engineering. It is an obligation they had to do. Plus then, when they do that, they have benefits to pay to their employees. So what do you do? We are going to run into a loss situation. The market is not promising anymore. We are going to spend more to extract diamonds than we are going to get out of it. And we are going to spend more to close the mines. One, for paying benefits, and two, the mine closure obligations that we have. So what do you do? Kargbo Holdings, for some reason, their employees ask a labor question. You owe us certain conditions in our contracts. We want you to fulfill them. Some of them I elucidated the last time I was here, including providing sanitary conditions on the ground. I've been on the ground, and I am a mining engineer. Let me come, please. Let me finish. Let me just land, please. If I don't land, you let me lose my thoughts,
okay,
my trend. The mine closure, I have been there. I know that it is incumbent on an operator to provide for the health and safety of employees on the ground, especially on the ground. Heat generation, ventilation, sanitary conditions, and current breaks to get consistent, constant breaks to reduce the stress of being on the ground. So these people asked for these conditions, plus the fact that they agreed to pay them on at a particular amount, a particular rate, at a particular amount. Now that rate was as far back as 2016, the rate of the dollar at the time. It was okay. But today, the rate of the dollar is about 4 times higher than it was then. But you're still paying them on rates from 2016, the amount that you owe them, let's say $1,000. So in 2016 then, let us say the value of dollar was that, what was it, 200 or 2,000, it would be 2,000. Then today, it's what? It's 24,000 leones. New old leones, which is 2,400. So that is 24 leones, right? No, it's 24 new leones now. That makes it difficult for them to even meet their obligations at home. So these are the things they asked for. And because they asked for that, they threatened to lay them off. 1,000 people that have been working for you, to whom you owe obligations of benefits when you do get rid of them. So they protested. And our First Lady went there to support the people. And she supported them in the act. And I would do that myself.
Was it the job of the First Lady?
Let me do that. I would do that.
Or the job of the Minister of
I would do, that is not an official job. It's not an official job. It is a personal job because it was the people that her own people that she identifies with. I would do the same if it happened to the people of Port Loko. I'd go there not as an official of government, but as a citizen of that, to work and identify with my people. She was right to do that. It did not hurt the company. But because the company already had an intention not to continue the mines, they used it as a leverage. They used it as a leverage because you came here, we are now going to lay these people off 1,000 to make it look bad. But the crux of the matter is that when this whole issue started, these people actually came to solicit the help of the First Lady to talk to the people. So it started from them. Our people say, don't look at where you fall. It's where you, it's where you tripped. So this is what happened.
I know Hon Ibrahim Kargbo has a lot to say with regards to the submissions you've made. But again, were those contracts written and signed at that time? Were they people-centered? Or was it just to satisfy the pockets and
which contracts are you talking about?
I mean,
the mining contracts.
The mining contracts.
They were signed according to the laws of Sierra Leone, the Mines and Minerals Act.
People-centered?
They were people-centered at the time. Don't forget, we are only 20 years away from a war situation. When we were in Parliament in 2002, nothing was happening in this country. Let me finish. 2002, nothing was happening in this country. When the EU decided to help us boost youth unemployment, the then President Amadou Jan Kaba received this amount of 34 million euro and decided to give it to Sarah Rutile to boost them. He gave the money that was given to the country to give to a company so that they would be able to initiate employment for youth. That happened. We were in Parliament, we ratified that. It was necessary. Under normal circumstances, he said, I would not take my own money and give to a company in which the interest is very limited. And it was not only the money, it was not only the money, it was also the taxes that were shelved at that time, just so that it becomes people-centered. So when we come to governance in 2007, and I became minister in 2009 to 2010, the advice from the international community that aided us is that you cannot try to be very difficult in your negotiations, because you have competitors. What you have in this country, they have in Liberia. What you have in Guinea, they have. What you have here, the iron ore, they have in Guinea. So if you're not competitive, the investors would go somewhere else. So make sure that you write this contract to attract, to attract people to come and work. And that is what we do. It is people-centered. The intention was, and you saw what happened at that time when we signed those contracts and the mining started. African Minerals came up, and London Mining at the time, I think, they came up, and Sierra Rutile was boosted. Bauxite of Sierra Minerals was boosted. This country became the fastest growing nation on earth, even with the concessions that we made. Became the fastest growing nation on earth at 35% GDP.
At this juncture, Ibrahim Kargbo and Alpha Kanu, would you say the government has been able to handle the economy of this country judiciously as they did promise?
Well, I would simply talk like an ordinary man, a layman, that the Kargbo Holdings saga is a very, very important matter that has to be looked into very seriously. I'm very impressed by the explanations of my younger brother here, but the fact of the matter is that 1,000 people are out of employment. What do we do about them? And talking about the economy, laying off 1,000 people does not add to the development of our economy. It can only suggest that the economy is not doing well. Otherwise, you would not lay off 1,000 people. And I raised the issue of the Minister of Mineral Resources, principally because in a governance structure where everybody is supposed to play his part according to the rules provided in our laws, the Minister of Mineral Resources should have played a major role in all of these transactions. But I never heard him utter a single word, which means that something is seriously wrong. And I'm not going to bring in the First Lady in this argument, principally because she is not part of the process at all. What I can only see, that the matter has still not gotten totally out of hand. Our people out there are not very concerned, are really not bothered about the history of how Kargbo Holdings came to the fore. What the problem is, to ensure that there is an opportunity for the people to get employment. And they saw Kargbo Holdings as an opportunity for their people to be employed. If you listen to the leaked audio statement by a paramount chief, it said it all. That is the thinking of the ordinary citizen. These people were quietly performing their duties, employed. Somebody went there and asked them to go on strike because they wanted more pay, even though you have also argued that the diamond market is going down, and it's not making money anymore, and then you want them to continue to increase salaries which they may not be able to pay when the times come to the crunch, and then you have this difficulty. Instead of us putting in place together the structures to ensure that to bring all the parties together to solve this matter, we became very, very toxic. People became very, very angry. People started insulting people. Even ministers were insulted in the process. People became too angry. And that is not the way you resolve a crisis of that nature. The best way you can resolve a crisis of that nature is to bring everybody on the table, smile, and then you put the papers on the table. Gentlemen, we have a problem. How do we solve it? Mr. Kanu here knows how we solve these problems in similar cases. When there was a problem in Gumuna, somebody was killed there. Tempers flared. We went there at night. We got there. We got all the parties together, including the local people. And we found a solution to the problem. It was resolved. This is the way in modern governance you address issues. You don't go about insulting people, becoming too toxic over an issue which otherwise can be addressed amicably. To us is important. About the economy has difficulties. I agree with the argument of some members of the government when they said that the situation globally, right, has become extremely difficult for everybody. But again, if you take into consideration our own situation here, we always will continue to address the issue and plead with the government in power that a little bit more can be done to improve the status of the ordinary citizen. I came to this place, and by the time I entered this place, more than 4 people were asking for arms. They wanted money. It's like, I'm going to eat cookie. It's like, I'm going to get this soup. We cannot continue to run a state in this manner. The ordinary person has become so poor. You go to people who cannot pay their debts. It's impossible because the resources are simply not there. And when you take a country like Sierra Leone and you put it in its present perspective, whereby everything is difficult, nobody's telling a good story about himself or about the neighbors, then of course something's terribly wrong. So what do? Instead of us, and I've told our people, even in the All People's Congress Party, I always quote what Cyril Faure said. Cyril Faure said, when we were young people, he said, when you are in opposition, don't set impossible standards for others. Because one day you will get there and discover that what you thought that man should do, you cannot do yourself. That's why the SLP did. They set impossible standards for the APC. They thought the APC should have done this, the APC should have done that. Now they found themselves there and they discovered the truth. In governance, there are certain mechanisms which you must address. For example, they will talk about the toll road, the toll gate. We don't need it. We don't need toll gate at all. They addressed it, they insulted us, went to radio, they invented myself, we argued over it. But when we come to power, we will run this country in such a manner that there will be no toll gate and people will be comfortable. Now they've been in power for 7 years, the toll gate is still there. Now people are paying far more than we charge them when we are in office. So this is why sometimes when you are in governance, when you are in a position, you don't set impossible standards for people who are in governance. It's also important that people of the system.
I should be coming.
Just wrap off quickly and allow him to come in. Alpha Khan, a lot has been said with regards the economy generally. Your brother here, Hon Ibrahim Kargbo, has painted a picture as if things are more than they expect. That even the ordinary man can't now easily fend for themselves. Alpha Khan, help us understand the current state of the economy.
You shouldn't be surprised to hear this from him. He just said that he's from the opposition. And oppositions are there to show, even if you pave the street with gold, they'll say you put brass on it. So that's it. I know that the agenda of His Excellency the President, which I was also myself very skeptical about when I was in government, when they promised to bring free education. I was one of those people who denied that they were not capable to do that. Let me just finish, please. Why do you step in as soon as I start speaking? Give me time, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And for 7 years now, the free education is still up and running. But let me go back to the points that my brother raised here. First of all, we must deconstruct the problem that is facing Kargbo Holdings today, so that we don't muddle it up. The problem that Kargbo Holdings is facing at the moment is one of a labor problem. It is not one of a mining problem. That is why the Minister of Mineral Resources didn't come there. He is not the Minister of Labor. Kargbo Holdings has problems with its labor force. So it's the Minister of Labor who would go there, and he went there. So government is doing what is necessary. It hasn't come to the point where the government, the president, has to make a statement about all of this. What he will do, he will depend on the Minister of Labor to try to smoothen the situation as he tried to do. But only when you have willing partners. If the other partners are not willing, you can't bring them to the table. I just gave you the reasons. We seem to be having an issue with the mic. We seem to be having an issue with sound. Still in the studios, we have Hon Ibrahim Kargbo and also Hon Alhaji Dr. Alpha Kanu, who is the presidential spokesman at some point in time. Before we had that glitch in transmission as a result of the mics. You were hammering home your point. Continue from where you stopped. Deconstruct the problem. It is not a mining problem that is affecting Kargbo Holdings. It is not a government problem that's affecting Kargbo Holdings. It is an internal labor problem that they have. So it's not the Minister of Mines who should deal with it. It's the Minister of Labor. And he rightly did to go there. He did well to go there and trying to resolve the matter. That's his fact. So if you have a willing partner, I agree with my brother that it can be resolved. But you must have a willing partner who wants to come to the table. But by the time they were dismissing the people, they were already moving their machines out of Kargbo Holdings, out of the site. It means they had an intention not to continue. We just provided the strike, which was voluntarily gone into by the people who are workers. And it was not instigated by any government official or any outside force. They decided that because they did not get the right amount of money that was promised to them because of the exchange rate that was still very archaic at that time, historical, they were not going to continue. They downed tools on their own. So it's not anybody's influence for them to down tools. When they down tools, the company saw that as an opportunity. So, we'll sack you. And they've done that. For me, that in itself is not very sincere in terms of dealing with labor and investment. I am sure that even the International Labour Organization and the International Chamber of Commerce, who oversee things like this, they will not give fault the workers nor the people who intervene on this issue. It is the fault of Kargbo Holdings. Now, my brother talked about the economy being bad. He talked about opposition raising bars for incumbent governments, which are too high, to the point that when they come into power, they're not able to reach that. The opposition then, they promised that they were going to give free education, which was their priority. They've done that. They're going to improve human capital development. They've done that. They talked about trying to put in agriculture as a priority. They're doing that. So I don't see how much failure you can attribute to them for that. But where I have an issue, and I must come openly today, the toll gates and the toll road. You know what a toll road is? It's an auxiliary road. You have the national road and the auxiliary. In case the national road is not good enough, and you can afford to pay, you can go into the business road. Toll road is supposed to be a business, and it is a business. You don't take the national road and turn it into a paying road. Even when people are paying their taxes to SLRA, SLRSA and all that kind of thing, they're still paying toll gate. You don't do that. That was one of the reasons that I was kicked out of cabinet, because I did not approve of that. I said that if you were going to put a toll road, let the people who want to build a toll road, give them allocation of land which they can use to build their road, or you give them the old road that runs from Hastings all the way to Mashaka, the old road. Let them develop that so that they can build it and then charge people for using it. But the road that people are using, which was built by taxpayers' money, should be left that way. I was kicked out of cabinet for that. So the idea of a toll road is good. It's an alternative. But you don't do it to the detriment of the public road. That public road now has been subsumed into the toll road. So that was my own argument. And that was the argument of the opposition at that time. I was not in opposition, I was in government, and I argued this matter, he knows, in cabinet. I didn't agree with that. But because it is what you call a collective responsibility, I wouldn't come out and say it, that I wasn't against it. The other one was the airport. They were going to remove the airport to bring it here. My argument was that, why move it? That area of Lokomasama and Lunge, the only thing that sustains them is the airport. If you take it out of there, that place is going to sink back into oblivion. And I was then a representative in Parliament for that area. I cannot be part of this. I think we should improve Lunge and possibly find a way to make better access to get to Lunge rather than closing and shutting down Lunge altogether. One of the other reasons that I was kicked out of Parliament, cabinet at that time. After all, they had second thoughts. They brought me back after they had done what they had to do. So he knows my stance on these things. And I think those stands are right. The opposition then was right. You need to leave the public road a public road because people pay for it anyway when they pay their taxes. They don't have to pay again to use that road. You build a new road, you give the investor space to build a road, or the condemned road, I'll call it now, the old road from Hastings to Mashaka, give it to them to improve and let them own it. So this was what my position was. And I think the opposition then was right.
But at this moment, they've embraced those developments, and the cost for plying that route has doubled, and for some other vehicles,
inflationary,
it has quadrupled.
inflationary reasons. That's it. The dollar rate changed. They fixed the price. They fixed the price at the dollar rate. In 2018, 2017, 2018, they fixed the dollar rate then. Now the dollar rate is not the same in 2022 or 2023. So you still have to get the same dollars when you convert it to leones. This is the same problem the Kanu holdings are having.
But the interpretation of the clauses in that contract, the interpretation of the clauses in that contract
yes,
never speaks to the current condition of things. It never points to say if the exchange rate does changes.
No contract. No contract will be drawn without taking into consideration the time value of money, how it changes. So that I don't agree with you, that it does not speak to it. It does.
Okay.
If it doesn't speak to it, then it was a very bad contract. I wouldn't have gone into it.
Quickly, as we switch to take another issue. You had wanted to say something on the...
No, well, I simply would say that in a position, even in a position, we continue to be very tolerant. So when the APC, our main rivals, come up with an idea, we always support it with the belief that they will perform well. If they do not perform well, then we say it. But when we're in governance, we're also very, very tolerant. That's why when they criticized us, we accepted their criticisms in good faith, with the hope that they had better alternatives. That's why even the multi-state project, the new airport, the new city, which we had put in place, the structures were already laid, and the Chinese were quite prepared to give us the grant. Now it was going to be a grant in any case. But when they came and said they had better ideas, they had a strong alternative, we allowed them. Today, that project is scrapped. We do not care about it, because when we come back, we'll take it up and develop it again. Coming back to the toll gates, the SLPP criticized us very, very severely on the sense about establishing a toll gate in Sierra Leone. We listened to them. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was insulted. We said, that is our view. And when they came to power, we gave them the opportunity to come up with their own policies to address the issue. All they succeeded in doing is to come up with their own policy, which now says people must pay more to use the same toll gate, which they criticized. If they had scrapped it, like they suggested, when they were in the position, I would have understood. But they did not scrap it. They saw sense in it. They knew that it was a good policy by us, and they took it running, and now it is of good use to them. It's generating money for the state. People are utilizing it, and it's a good investment. So again, I will go to the same Cyril Fore thinking. Never set impossible standards for others when you know that you cannot adhere to them. All this talk about Kargbo Holdings having difficulties here, not wanting to cooperate, you shut down a whole mining entity in this country, and you say it is not the business of the Minister of Mineral Resources. Why was he appointed Minister of Mineral Resources in the first instance? You shut down the whole of Kargbo Holdings. The place shuts. It does not mine anymore. And then we say it is not the business of the minister in charge of minerals in the country. I want to be better educated in that regard. You will be if only Samuel gives me time. Government did not shut down Kargbo Holdings. Kargbo Holdings closed down because of economic reasons.
But there were still
because of economic reasons, because of operational economic reasons. They can't afford to continue. They have a big bill in front of them.
But they did not say so. Did they say so?
They wouldn't say that, but I know so. I wrote that contract. They have to spend in the next 4 years $50 million to restore the land to the position it was before. Where will they get it from? What you would have done is that during the period of 25 years, every year they should have put an amount aside for mine closure. It is provided for in the contract.
Mr. Kanu, this government voted from your contract many years ago.
Maybe you should...
4 years ago.
Maybe you should really allow me to land. Yes? So if you put that aside, it's provided for in the contract. So that when the time comes, it's like an insurance policy. You just go there and take it. They could even have taken an insurance with Rich Corp if they wanted, or NIC if they wanted. And the $50 million would be ready in 4 years' time for them to meet the cost of mine closure. They have looked at it now. Opportunity costs, they know that to continue now is going to cost us more than if we continue, than if we just abandon things and go. If you check today, there's only one top official of Kargbo Holdings that remains in the country. They left. That was the plan. Some of the machines that they tried to remove, one of them is still parked at Mashaka because the police stopped it. They were moving the machines. You have an industrial problem. Instead of resolving the industrial problem, you move your machines. They were ready to move. I think you say in Creole, board one fly, you go shake the tick. That the people where they work, they're the ones who shook the tree. So that is the situation. So I don't want us to blame government here. Yes, at the end of the day, because of the welfare of the people, we will take that responsibility to try and find alternative ways how this can be resolved. But for now, that mine is almost depleted. There's not much revenue generation left in there in terms of deposit. And with the depleted level of the business price of diamonds in the world market today, it's not attractive. It's not an attractive option. It is easier to buy a plane ticket and leave and go off to South Africa than sit down here. And that is what has happened.
In just a few minutes. In just a few minutes.
If you invite a representative of the Kargbo Holdings here, he will tell you a different story.
I would wish you do that.
But what I would say, I will ask the same question. We sit here and watch the collapse of a whole mining company, the foremost diamond mining company in the country, and Mr. Kanu says it is not the business of the minister in charge of that sector.
And what would you have had the minister to do? Force them to go back to work? No. The minister has to...
The spokesman just talks about the adage that says the bird one fly then go shake tick. As we speak, the president has been given feathers to fly higher. Just a couple of days ago, he was elected president of ECOWAS. There has been many commendations from the public, while others do think that these feathers he's been given to fly higher will no doubt fuel his already insatiable appetite for foreign travels and meaningless summits that he does attend. Alpha Khan, what does it mean? And will this allow the president to perform the duty he was elected by the people of his country to perform, which is to sit back in country, understand what's happening, and see ways to resolve the many problems that people do face on a daily basis?
I would first of all like you to substitute the word insatiable appetite to fly to a necessity. It's a developmental necessity. President flies to go look for investments into the country, to go look for support for the country, to go and meet with donors. Right now he's in Brussels. He's talking to Gavi and the Gates Foundation and the EU for vaccines. Mpox is ravaging us at the moment. We have more than 50% of the cases in the world in Sierra Leone. And you need vaccines to slow that down. We don't have the money and we don't manufacture them. So he should have abandoned that to go. Now to say that he has been given feathers, I would say he was not given feathers. He grew the feathers himself. Because in the choice of the chairman, the ECOWAS community and authority of heads of state had 4 cardinal objectives. What are these objectives? The security in the region, threatened by Boko Haram in eastern Nigeria, northeastern Nigeria, and the Al-Qaeda in the Sahel, which is threatening the Sahel region. That's the security. So how do you deal with that? So you need somebody who has a security background. And President Bio has been a member of the military. He has fought a war, and he has been able to resolve a war out of the battlefield. So that's an experience which he has. And the other 2 contenders, that is President John Dramani Mahama and President Basiru Jumai Faye did not have. So he checked, for him, he checked that box. The second box is how do we get back the AES, i.e. the Sahel states, that is the Organization of Sahel States, to come back to the fold of the family of ECOWAS. They are all military people. They all came in through military coups. And they are running the countries as militaries. So how do you get back there? You need somebody with experience who has been through that road. President Bio has been a military man. He has been a military leader. And he was able to restore a government of democratic government in Sierra Leone within 3 months. That experience will serve him well to talk to those people that will give them confidence. Because he is now back here as a democratically elected president. So he ticked that second box also. The third one is, how do you improve continental integration, starting with regional integration in terms of trade and freedom of movement of people under the AfCFTA, i.e. the Africa Free Trade, continental Africa Free Trade Area. Now, when President Bio attended the summit a day before the ECOWAS summit, there was a summit in Nigeria also that was of businesses and African businesses and investors and stakeholders to find out how we could improve on bringing this AfCFTA into fruition. He gave a very powerful statement with solid proposals how it should be managed to get Africa Free Trade running in a successful way. So that ticks the box also. That means that he's committed to that. The final one is the monetary union is another cardinal issue for ECOWAS. The same summit the day before, he had also hinted on ways how this could be done. Improving the ELTS and getting the global ASICUDA and all that kind of thing, and all that, the custom union and all that. He talked about all of these things. So he showed that he already has these things on his table, thinking about it. So for all the 4 boxes, which were challenges to ECOWAS, President Bio checked all of those. And when these were juxtaposed with the other contenders, John Dramani Mahama and President Basiru Jumai Faye, he was streets ahead. That's why he was chosen. Really. And that's why I say, after 5 hours, that's why I say that he was chosen because of merit, because of experience. And now, he grew the feathers. He builds the experience. He builds the capacity. He gave the impression that he was a man who would be there to run a democratic institution as ECOWAS wants to be, and also encourage those people who are out of the family to bring them in a democratic way so that they can have a timetable for transition. Don't forget also that when in Guinea, the President Mamadi Doumbouya took over, ECOWAS suspended Guinea and they cut him off completely. Nobody was going there. The very first person who went there to talk to him, in spite of ECOWAS's position, was President Bio, to show good neighborliness and also to explain to him that what you have done is not the best, but there's a way out. We can do that. So he already has a way of talking to these people. And he's been to Burkina Faso also, the first to be there after President Traoré took power. He went there, spoken to him. So they see that he has that experience, he has that ability, he has that willingness, he has that altruism, and he has that heroism in them to face things.
Hon Ibrahim Kargbo.
Okay, well, I do not believe that I need to spend lots and lots of time to congratulate President Julius Maada Bio, the citizen, my countryman, and if anybody has gone up to the point of achieving the status which he has acquired, it is only fair that we congratulate him, because he's also the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And we only wish that he would perform the duties for which he has been elected, and we also hope that he'll come back with laurels. You know, when I talk about presidents who are going through their second term, I always talk about them putting together their strategy, legacies, their exit strategy. And I hope that the president will look at this new development as part of the legacies we put together to enhance a smooth exit when he leaves office, to add to his accolades that here was a man who started as a young man, as a young military man. He went up to this point, and today he ended up this. Because I was trained a journalist, and I went to the New York School of Journalism, where we were trained that there is a whole lot of difference between propaganda and news reportage. I would say that I will insist that I restrict myself to news reportage. The information is that, and we got it right from the right source, that the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, President Julius Maada Bio, has now assumed the office of chairman of ECOWAS, for which all of us are very, very happy. But apart from that, I'm not going to give any other extraneous reasons why the president of Ghana did not get it, or why the president of Gambia did not get it. The fact is that he deserves it, and we congratulate him for that. Again, looking at the challenges confronting him, the same challenges confronted other people from the days of Chaka Stevens, when he became the third chairman of ECOWAS, trying to create a common monetary union to create the ECO. So many chairmen have come and gone, that has never been achieved. And when I spoke to Professor Nana, who was coordinating this project, I used to work with him, why no chairman was able to achieve this feat of creating the monetary union, establishing the new currency for West Africa, the ECO, he said, I don't know, it is political. I have brought this point because I hope that Maada Bio would use this opportunity to achieve this very important goal by the West African body. If he does, then his accolades will more than multiply and more than quadruple. To us, it's important that we look at it from that angle. So we believe that he has the opportunity now to perform his duties. But like I said, we are going to continue to watch him closely. We are members of the opposition. We should not renege on our responsibilities. He is the president of Sierra Leone. First and foremost, more than ECOWAS, his responsibilities are here. We want to be very certain that we're happy, we are comfortable, and that we live as responsible citizens of this country.
As a result of the exigency of time, Alpha Kanu, at this moment, the people are in a haste to hear from these two fine gentlemen in the studios, experienced voices in the politics of Sierra Leone. What are your closing courtesies?
Thank you very much.
At this moment.
My closing courtesies, first of all, is a message. The first one is that the qualities of President Bio, that's put him above the others. There was a real contest lasting 5 hours for this. I heard on the BBC Afrique this morning, a journalist, not a journalist, a leader of the African Integration Organization based in Senegal, a man called Salman Fall. When asked, why do you think that President Bio was chosen above Jumai Faye and Dramani Mahama? He elucidated these points that I just gave. Because of the four reasons that face ECOWAS, there must be somebody, an all-rounder, who is able to handle that. That's fine. The second message is that we are plan to fix the politics of Sierra Leone. We have to fix it. We just finished our fratricidal war in 2002, about 23 years ago. The first phase of that is 2002 to 1997, by 2007, by President Amatijan Kaba, was one of disarmament and rehabilitation and all that kind of thing. 2007 to 2018, the 10 years of President Ernest Bai Koroma were years of development. the 2018 to now and on to 2028, the 10 years of President Bill, are also years of development. This is now the yardstick by which we're going to measure the successes and failures of each of the agendas and the manifestos of these two governments. That is one. But the final message I want to give is to my people from Lunge. I come from Lunge and I used to represent you. I was your member of parliament and I fought for the airport not to be removed there. President Bill came and promised you he was going to build it and keep it there. He's done that. But when I just don't hear it, Honorable Ibrahim Kargbo, a very senior member of the APC, he say when APC come back to power, then go pull the airport, they go other side. So that he just had him here. Then go pull and take and go back to Koya. Koya we already get so many industries and things like that. So that he go kill the area. Kafubulom and Lokom Sama and parts of Bakeloko will die. So do ya unayari not to so, not to campaign, na in talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kargbo, of course.
Okay, first of all, I would like to appeal to my people, the All People's Congress Party, that more than any time before it is now that we need to come together. And I've made the point at an Elders Council meeting that we cannot afford to lose another election. And we are not going to lose another election. But for us to win an election, we need the support of everybody, right across the country, south, east, north, west. We want everybody to come on board. We are very certain that we have the numbers and we are going to be part of the democratic process in this country. We do not want to introduce any toxic component in our politics. We want to be certain that we continue to perceive the SLPP as our friends, as we also want to encourage other political parties to be part of the political process, because we will continue to provide the leadership that is so necessary. Whether we like it or not, the APC is the largest party in this country. It is the party with the most experienced politicians in this country. And we are going to utilize that advantage to make sure that we develop this country. After 2028, Sierra Leone will become a new country. We'll change the entire face of this country. And believe me, the kind of difficulties we are now seeing, difficulties of not having food to eat, etc., will be a matter of the past. I thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so very much,
Yes.
Honorable Ibrahim Kargbo, and also Honorable Dr. Alpha Kanu. It's always a pleasure having you in our studios.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy that His Excellency Honorable Ibrahim Kargbo has spoken to his people. We go fix this politics of this country. In 2028, SLPP self no go lost, but there will be no war because there will be no loser. Now that no more. We go we dey pan the top. We will fix the politics.